On my first day at my new job, I sat down in my new boss's office. She pushed a cup of coffee toward me, smiled, and said, "Emma, welcome to Novosphere. Starting today, you'll report directly to me." I was about to thank her when my eyes stopped on the upper left corner of her desk. There was a black metal photo frame, and inside that frame was my husband, Ryan Blake. Not someone who looked like him. Not a similar angle. It was my husband of 7 years. In the photo, he was wearing a dark blue polo shirt, standing by the ocean, with that familiar smile on his face. The left side of his cheek had the small dimple I knew so well. Behind him, the water was bright blue, and palm trees leaned toward the beach. It was Maui. That polo shirt was the one I bought him for our 3rd wedding anniversary. That photo should have been in a drawer in our bedroom. I took that photo myself. I picked the frame myself. I placed it on our nightstand myself. 3 months ago, it suddenly disappeared. I asked Ryan where the photo had gone, and he said, "The bedroom was getting cluttered, so I put it away. Isn't our style more minimal now?" I believed him. Because back then, I still thought that between husband and wife, not every small thing needed to be questioned. Now that photo was sitting on my new boss's desk. My new boss was named Leah Grant. She was in her early 30s, blonde, fair-skinned, wearing a light gray suit, with a thin watch on her wrist. She spoke at an even pace, but her eyes were steady, like she was used to having people follow her lead. She was the vice president of brand strategy at Novosphere. She was also going to be my direct supervisor for at least the next 90 days. Less than 10 minutes into my new job, I discovered that she had a photo of my husband on her desk. At that moment, the entire office seemed to move far away from me. People were walking outside. Printers were working. Someone was holding coffee and laughing. But all those sounds seemed to come through a thick layer of glass. I did not stand up. I did not scream. I did not ask her why there was a photo of my husband on her desk. I simply held the coffee cup and took a sip. The coffee was hot. So hot that the tip of my tongue went numb. But I needed that pain. Kept me awake. Leah opened my onboarding file and smiled. "I looked through your background. You handled several major consumer tech projects in Chicago, right?" "Yes," I heard myself answer. My voice was steady. "Novosphere is preparing for a major brand upgrade right now. We need someone who can handle pressure. The executive team thinks highly of you." "Thank you. I'll get up to speed as quickly as possible." She nodded with satisfaction. I should have been listening carefully to her work arrangements, but my eyes kept drifting back to that photo. Leah noticed. She followed my gaze to the frame, and the smile on her face suddenly became softer. That was not the smile of a boss speaking to a subordinate. That was the smile of a woman talking about the man she loved. "You saw him." She picked up the frame like it was something precious. "This is Ryan, my fiancé." My fingers tightened on my lap. "Fiancé." She said it so naturally. My husband of 7 years had become her fiancé. I looked up at her and tried to keep my expression relaxed. "He photographs well." Leah laughed, her eyes brightening. "Right? He usually hates photos, but I love this one. That was from our trip to Maui." He was finally relaxed for once. Our trip to Maui. I suddenly understood that even the story behind this photo had been rewritten by him. That was not a trip he took with Leah. That was my wedding anniversary trip with Ryan. That year, I had just landed a huge project and was so tired that I slept through most of the flight. After we arrived at the hotel, Ryan said to me, "You focus on making money. I'll focus on making you happy." So happiness could be stolen too. It could be taken from me and turned into a memory for another woman. Leah placed the frame back on the desk and gently touched the glass with her fingertips. "We've been together for 3 years, she said. "We're getting married at the end of the year." 3 years. Ryan and I had been married for 7. That meant from the 4th year of our marriage, he had already been living another life outside our home. I looked at the diamond ring on Leah's left hand. The stone was big and bright. It was clearly not an ordinary ring. My wedding ring was just a thin gold band. Back then, Ryan told me, "I don't like big diamond rings. They feel like showing off. Our love doesn't need a stone to prove anything." At the time, I thought he was mature. Now I knew he did not dislike large diamond rings. He just did not want to buy one for me. Leah looked at her own ring, unable to hide the happiness in her voice. He proposed last month in Aspen. Snow mountains, a fireplace, champagne. Very cliché, but I loved it. Last month. Ryan went to Colorado last month. He said he had a private investment meeting, that the client was difficult, and that he had to stay 3 nights. I even helped him pack thick sweaters. I was afraid he might get headaches from the altitude, so I put painkillers in his bag. Turned out he went there to propose. Suddenly I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the truth was so ugly that it felt like a cheap movie. Leah asked, "Are you married?" I looked at her. She did not know. She really did not know. At least at that moment she did not seem to know who I was at all. Because in my career I had always used my maiden name, Emma Hayes. My legal name had already changed to Blake, but on all my resumes, public profiles, and industry accounts I was still Emma Hayes. Ryan never posted me on social media, and he rarely brought me to events in his finance circle. He always said he kept his private life low-key, and I once believed that was protection. Now I knew what it really was. Convenience. It made it convenient for him to hide me. Convenient for him to pretend he was single in front of another woman. "I am," I said. 7 years. Leah raised her brows slightly, like she had just heard a story from another era. 7 years? That's a long time. You must be very stable now. I suppose so, I said. I used to be afraid of marriage. She smiled. But Ryan is different. He says the women he met before never understood the pressure of his career. Then he met me, and he finally felt like he could settle down. I looked down at the rim of my coffee cup. The women he met before never understood the pressure of his career. That woman before was probably me. I stayed with him through the early stage of his career. I stayed with him through debt. I moved with him. I helped him climb back from failure again and again. In the end, in his story, I became nothing more than someone who did not understand his pressure. Leah continued. Ryan is very busy, but he knows how to take care of people. When a man truly loves you, he plans a future for you. That sentence almost made me laugh. Plans a future. He planned a wedding, an apartment, and a new company for her. For me, he probably planned a quiet exit. Someone knocked on the office door. Leah came back to herself and pushed a folder toward me. All right, let's stop talking about personal things for now. This morning, you can start by reviewing the project materials. At 2 in the afternoon, we'll have a brand review meeting. Also, next week, an outside investment consultant will come in. He's working with us on a joint project, and you may need to coordinate with him often. I looked up. Investment consultant? Yes. Leah smiled, her eyes bright again. He's very impressive. I glanced at the photo frame. What's his name? Leah smiled sweetly, almost like she was teasing me. You'll know when the time comes. I stood and picked up the folder. Okay. When I walked out of her office, my back was straight. The open office outside was bright. White lights shone over rows of desks, and young employees gave me friendly smiles. I went to my assigned seat and opened my laptop. The screen lit up. I created a new document. The first line I wrote was, on my first day at work, my new boss Leah Grant had a photo of Ryan on her desk. The second line, she said Ryan was her fiancé. They had been together for 3 years and were getting married at the end of the year. The third line, Ryan does not know that I have already seen it. I stared at those 3 lines. My chest hurt, but stronger than the pain was the cold. Not the cold of fear. It was the cold that comes when a person suddenly wakes up. I did not cry. I did not call Ryan immediately, because I knew that from this moment on, my marriage was no longer just a marriage. It had become an investigation, and I would not walk away empty-handed. At 10 in the morning, the administrative assistant showed me around the office. Novasphere was a fast-growing technology company that built data platforms for businesses. It had recently secured a new round of funding. The company occupied an entire floor in a midtown Manhattan building. There were glass meeting rooms, open work areas, a coffee bar, lounge spaces, and motivational slogans written on the walls. I should have felt excited. This was my first important job after moving from Chicago to New York. Starting over at 32 was not easy. For this position, I went through 4 rounds of interviews, completed 2 strategy proposals, and answered questions at the board level. When I got the offer, Ryan hugged me and said, I knew you could do it. Now that we're both developing our careers in New York, Life will only get better. Now I knew that his version of better probably did not include me. My desk was right outside Leah's office. From my seat, I could look up and see her working through the glass wall. Every now and then she would pick up that photo and smile. Every time she looked at it, it felt like a needle in my chest. But I could not show it. I had to act like a new employee. Professional. Polite. Willing to learn. At 11, Leah called me into her office. Emma, I looked at some of your previous brand transformation cases. They're strong. She leaned back in her chair. This new product launch isn't just a marketing campaign. There's a capital partnership behind it. I need you to help me make the brand story more valuable to investors. Understood. She sent a file to my email. These are the early materials. Take a look this afternoon. We're working with a new fund. They want to use Novasphere's customer base as a pilot. Your job is to make the market understand that story. I nodded and opened the email. The title was plain. Strategic Partnership Draft. Inside it mentioned a temporary fund name. BNL Growth Partners. BNL. My heart sank slightly. Blake and Leah? Ryan Blake and Leah Grant. I did not let the thought go too far, but my fingers had already gone cold. Leah continued. This project is still confidential. Don't mention it casually to the team. When the outside consultant arrives next week, we'll officially move forward. I asked. This consultant is from the fund? Yes. Leah smiled and her eyes lit up. He understands capital and storytelling. I think you two will work well together. I looked at her expression. That was not the expression of someone talking about a business partner. That was the expression of someone talking about the man she loved. I suddenly understood that Leah might not only have my husband's photo on her desk. She might also be asking me to help package their new business. She was asking me, the legal wife, to polish the story of her future company with my husband. That felt even more disgusting than the photo. I returned to my desk and read the materials carefully. The pages looked polished, but the content was still empty. The so-called BNL Growth Partners was positioned as a boutique technology investment fund, combining capital plus brand plus growth consulting for startups. One page listed the team structure. There were no names yet, only titles. Managing Partner, Brand Strategy Partner, Operations Lead. I stared at Brand Strategy Partner. If my guess was right, that role belonged to Leah, and Managing Partner belonged to Ryan. Leah walked out of her office and stood beside me. How far have you read? I looked up. I just got to the team structure. She smiled. We can't put names in yet. Once the outside consultant arrives next week, we'll update everything together. I smiled too. Understood. She did not notice the coldness in my voice. She only saw me as a new subordinate, someone who would help her do her work. At lunch, Leah did not invite the whole team. Instead, she asked me to eat with her alone. She said, I like to talk one-on-one with key team members on their first day. It makes working together easier later. The restaurant was right beside the building. It was clean and bright with white tabletops, black chairs, and salads priced like legal bills. After we sat down, she naturally started asking about my private life. Emma, what does your husband do? I picked up my water. Finance-related work. Leah's eyes lit up. Really? Then you'll probably understand our upcoming partnership project pretty well. A little. Is your husband busy too? Very. He often comes home late. Leah smiled as if she had found something in common. I understand completely. Ryan is the same. He always says that men with real ambition can't come home at 6 every night. My fingers paused against the glass. Ryan had said that to me too. Every time I asked why he was coming home so late again, he would say, Emma, you know my industry is like this. People who really want to build something can't come home at 6 every evening. I once believed him, because I was afraid of seeming unsupportive, afraid of becoming a wife who held him back. Now, hearing the same sentence from Leah's mouth, I finally saw it for what it was. It was not ambition. It was a pass. He used that sentence to leave both women at the same time. Leah continued, but Ryan and I are very compatible. He's busy and I don't make trouble. I have my own career too. I don't need a man to revolve around me. I looked at her. When she said those words, there was a small hint of pride in her voice. She thought she had won because she was understanding, just like I once did. I asked, "How are the wedding plans going?" She immediately smiled. "The venue is booked. A 5-star hotel in Midtown. I'm still looking at wedding dresses. Ryan said he wants to give me the best. He didn't used to like big displays, but I think a wedding only happens once in a lifetime. It shouldn't be too low-key." I nodded. "It should be done properly." "Was your wedding big?" "No," I said. "We only invited people close to us. Ryan always says he doesn't like complicated family relationships." Leah used her fork to poke at her salad. "He says his past relationship made him exhausted. The other person depended on him too much and needed him to take care of everything." My chest tightened. "He said that?" "Yes, but he doesn't like to talk about it in detail." "I don't push him." Leah shrugged. "The past is the past." The past. In her eyes, his legal wife, was only the past. I looked at her young, confident face and suddenly realized that she was also living inside a story Ryan had created. Maybe she was not fully innocent. At least, she had never seriously checked Ryan's past. But she clearly did not know that the new subordinate sitting across from her was the so-called past. After lunch, we returned to the company. Ryan sent me a message. "I'll be late again tonight. Last-minute client meeting. Don't get too tired on your first day." I looked at those words, my fingers pausing for a few seconds. At the same time, Leah's phone lit up too. She looked down at the screen, and the corners of her mouth slowly lifted. I barely needed to guess who the message was from. I replied to Ryan, "Okay, you take care too." In the afternoon meeting, I performed professionally. When Leah said the positioning of the new product was unclear, I pointed out the problem in user perception. When the design director's visual direction felt scattered, I gave 2 clear options. When the operations manager worried about the budget, I broke the channel spending into 3 phases. By the time the meeting ended, Leah was looking at me differently. She admired me, maybe even relied on me a little. "Emma," she said, "you're even stronger than your resume. I'm sure now that we hired the right person." I smiled. "I'll do the project well." In my mind I added, "And I'll also find out everything you two have done." After work, I did not leave right away. I sat at my desk pretending to organize materials, while secretly opening an incognito browser to search Ryan and Leah's social media accounts. Ryan's public profile was clean. His profile photo was a business headshot, with a financial form behind him. He rarely posted personal content. Most of his posts were industry opinions, panel photos, and shared articles. Leah's account was different. She liked recording her life, but she was smart. She almost never showed a man's full face. I went through her posts one by one. 1 year ago, a Dallas hotel balcony. 2 cups of coffee. A man's hand resting near the table. On that hand was the Cartier watch I had given Ryan. 9 months ago, a dinner in San Francisco. 2 wine glasses touching under candlelight. Half a man's cuff visible. I recognized that shirt. 6 months ago, a ski lodge in front of a fireplace. A pair of men's boots beside the sofa. Ryan had the exact same pair. 1 month ago, Aspen. Snow mountains. Champagne. A close-up of a diamond ring. The caption. I said yes. I saved every screenshot. I named each one with date, place, and the possible lie Ryan had told me at that time. At 6:10 p.m., Leah walked out of her office. She had changed her lipstick and was carrying a small bag. She clearly was not just going to work late. I also packed up and went downstairs. I did not leave immediately. I stood in a corner of the lobby and pretended to look at my phone. At 6:22, Leah walked out through the revolving door. 3 minutes later, Ryan's black Audi pulled up by the curb. He got out and opened the door for her. Leah walked up to him and hugged him. Ryan lowered his head and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. Not a quick touch. It was a familiar, natural kiss. I stood behind the glass door and raised my phone. I took photos. 5 in a row. Ryan did not see me. Neither did Leah. They got into the car and left. I stood there watching the Audi merge into traffic. At that moment, my last trace of denial disappeared. My husband had been in a 3-year relationship with my new boss. They were engaged. They were planning to start a company together. And in their eyes I was just someone who could be arranged, hidden, and used. I turned and walked toward the subway station. From that moment on, I was no longer just a deceived wife. I was the person collecting evidence. That night I did not go straight home. I went to a small bar in the West Village. Sarah King was already sitting by the window waiting for me. She was my college friend and the person I trusted most. She handled divorce and asset cases, and when she fought in court, she fought hard. She usually did not talk much, but every sentence landed exactly where it needed to. When she saw me sit down, the first thing she said was, "Who betrayed you?" I froze for a second. She put down her glass. "It's written all over your face." I was silent for a few seconds. Then I said, "Ryan." Sarah's eyes immediately turned cold. "Talk." I told her everything from the beginning. The first day at work, Leah's office, the photo on the desk, the 3 years, the engagement, Maui, Aspen, the B&L project, and how I had personally seen Ryan pick Leah up after work and kiss her on the street. Sarah did not interrupt me once. When I finished, she leaned back and stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Your new boss is your husband's fiancé." "Yes. And she doesn't know you're his wife." "From what I can tell, she doesn't." "Does your husband know you joined this company?" "He knows the company name, but he doesn't know I report directly to Leah. Or maybe he knows and is pretending not to." Sarah gave a cold laugh. "He'd better really not know. If he knew and still let you go in, then he isn't just stupid. He's rotten all the way through." I looked down at my glass. "I want to know how much of our money he used." Sarah nodded. "That's the key. The cheating itself is disgusting, but in a property case, money matters most. You need to investigate 3 things. She held up one finger. First, whether Ryan used marital assets to transfer money to Leah, buy gifts, pay for travel, rent, or wedding expenses. A second finger. Second, whether he moved your money into the new company or gave Leah shares. The third finger. Third, whether he is currently moving assets so that he can give you less in the divorce. I nodded. "I suspect he is." "Then don't alert him," Sarah said. "You cannot question him now. You cannot yell at him. You cannot confront Leah. You need to act like you know nothing. Keep going to work. Keep going home. Keep collecting evidence." "I can do that." Sarah looked at me. "Emma, you seem too calm." "I'm not calm," I said. "I just haven't allowed myself to fall apart yet." Her expression softened a little. "Fall apart later. Right now, settle the accounts first." That night I got home close to 11. Ryan was not back yet. After entering the apartment, I did not turn on the main lights. I went straight into the study and turned on the desk lamp. I logged into our joint bank account. This account was our main account after marriage. We used it to pay the mortgage, utilities, and building fees. It also held a large amount of savings. Ryan had always handled investments while I managed most of our daily life. He always said he understood money better, and I had never doubted him. Now I downloaded every transaction. The past year. 2 years. 3 years. At first, the charges looked normal. Groceries. Insurance. Electricity. Credit card payments. Then names began to appear. Oh, Grant. $1,800. Oh, Grant. $3,200. Oh, Grant. $2,500. I stared at the screen, a chill spreading across my back. One transfer after another. Sometimes the note said, consulting. Sometimes it said, event reimbursement. Sometimes there was no note at all. I kept scrolling. Travel agency payments. Luxury stores. Hotel deposits. Jewelry stores. I remembered some of the dates very clearly. That day, he said he was in London for meetings. That day, he said he was golfing with clients. That day, he said the markets were unstable, and he had to stay in the office overnight. I exported all the records and put them into an encrypted folder. Then I checked the credit cards. A hotel charge in Aspen. A large charge at a jewelry store. A deposit paid to a wedding planning company. I stared at that wedding planning charge and suddenly laughed. So my husband's wedding deposit was paid from our marital account. He used my money to prepare a wedding with another woman. I sent the files to Sarah. Less than a minute later, she called. "Are you sitting down?" "I am." "Good. Don't stand up," she said. These records are extremely useful, especially the wedding planner and the payments to Leah. This is clear dissipation of marital assets. There's more. I opened the savings account. 2 weeks ago, he transferred $80,000 to Northline Residential Holdings. Sarah was quiet for a second. Real estate. Probably a new apartment near Hudson Yards. He told me it was a family investment. Leah said today he bought a marital home. Sarah cursed. Emma, listen carefully. Back up everything 3 times right now. 1 copy in the cloud, 1 to me, 1 on an external drive. Once Ryan finds out you're looking into the accounts, he will delete records, move money, and change passwords. I understand. And don't use the home computer to check anything anymore. Use your own device and enable 2-factor authentication. Okay. After hanging up, I kept working until 2 in the morning. I created a master spreadsheet. Date, amount, account, recipient, possible event, evidence source. By the time I finished, I counted it out. Over the past 2.5 years, Ryan had spent more than $140,000 directly or indirectly on Leah. That did not include the new company. That did not include hotel points. That did not include cash. That did not include accounts he might be hiding. I closed my laptop and leaned back in the chair. My eyes were sore. Not because I wanted to cry. Because I was exhausted. At 2:30 a.m. the door lock turned. Ryan came home. He walked into the living room and saw me sitting outside the study. He paused. Why aren't you asleep? I said calmly. There were a lot of project materials. I wanted to get familiar with them early. He walked over and rubbed my shoulders. Don't push too hard. It's only your first week. His hand was on my shoulder. That same hand had held Leah tonight. My stomach twisted, but I did not move. You worked hard too, I said. Did tonight go well? Not bad. He took off his coat. The client was difficult, but we should be able to move things forward. Client. Now I knew there were many kinds of clients. Some wore white dresses. Some sat in my new boss's office. Some were about to take my money and my husband. After he went to take a shower, I sat in the study and added another row to my spreadsheet. Ryan came home at 2:30 a.m. and claimed it was a client meeting. I barely slept that night. The next morning he kissed my forehead as usual. I may be late again tonight. I watched him tie his tie. Another client? Yes. It's a critical period. He smiled. Once I get this round settled, we'll go on vacation. Where? He clearly had not expected me to ask. He paused. Anywhere you want. I wanted to say, how about Maui? You can show me the memory you stole and gave to Leah. But I only smiled. We'll talk about it later. When I arrived at the office, Leah was in a good mood. She had an assistant deliver a bouquet of white roses to her office. The card was placed on her desk, uncovered. When I walked in to deliver a file, I saw it. Tonight at 6. Same place. She looked up and saw me. She smiled. Sorry, a little personal. I smiled too. The flowers are beautiful. He's always like this. She sounded like she was complaining, but her eyes were full of sweetness. I looked at her smile. Suddenly, I did not hate her as much as before. Because she truly looked deeply deceived by Ryan. But that did not mean she was completely innocent. A man who refuses to introduce you to his family for 3 years, refuses to post your full face publicly for 3 years, and only lets you see the parts of himself he wants you to see. If you never seriously ask questions, that is not pure innocence. That is choosing to believe a story because it benefits you. That afternoon, Leah called me into her office. Emma, I have a private dinner next week, and I may need you to look over a presentation for me. It's not a Novosphere project. It's my fiancé's company project. Would you mind? I looked up. Here it was. I don't mind, I said. As long as there's no conflict of interest with the company. She smiled. Don't worry. We may collaborate later anyway. Take a look at this. She sent me the file. The title. B&L Growth Partners Launch Deck. On the first page I saw a small line. Blake and Leah Growth Partners. My guess was right. Ryan Blake. Leah. His second life even had its company name written out. I kept reading. Managing Partner. Ryan Blake. Chief Brand Partner. Leah Grant. Equity Allocation. Leah Grant 25%. 25%. He had given Leah 25% of the equity. The file also included startup funding plans. Initial operating capital, $300,000. Part of the funding source was written vaguely. Founder contribution. Founder contribution. I did not need to guess. Some of that money was mine. Leah looked at me full of expectation. What do you think? I closed the laptop. The overall look is polished and the story is clear. But if you want to impress investors, you need to strengthen one point. What point? Trust, I said. Investors put money into people, not just businesses. You need to prove that the two founders have a stable relationship, aligned goals, clean funding, and clear governance. She nodded, completely missing the sharp edge in my words. You're right. Ryan always says investors care most about trust. Yes, I said, looking at her. Trust is important. That night, I sent the whole presentation to Sarah. After reading it, Sarah called me directly. Emma, this file is serious. I know. He used marital funds to start a new company and gave equity to the other woman. If we can connect the money trail with this deck, he's going to look terrible. They're hosting an investor cocktail party next Friday at the Plaza Hotel. Sarah paused. You're going. I'm going. You're going to expose it publicly? Yes. Sarah did not stop me. She only said, then we need to prepare the material so there are no holes. You're not going there to argue. You're going there to make every investor understand that this man's company already carries legal risk from day one. I looked out the window. I want him to lose his dignity in the place where he most wants to look respectable. Sarah said, I like that sentence. But don't say it on site. Keep it simple. Stick to the evidence. I laughed once. I know. Over the next few days, I went home like a normal wife. I went to work like a normal subordinate. I ate, held meetings, and slept like a normal person. But beneath all those normal actions, I was gathering more evidence every day. Ryan did not know. Leah did not know. They thought they were preparing for an investor dinner. Only I knew that they were preparing the scene of their own failure. During the week before Friday, Leah looked like she was floating. She mentioned the dinner every day. Ryan says the investor list is very high quality. Ryan says once this seed round is locked in, we can officially register the office. Ryan says we should build the company foundation before the wedding. Every time she said Ryan says, I silently added one more note in my spreadsheet. Sometimes she called me into her office to discuss B&L's brand messaging. Do you think private growth partner sounds too old-fashioned? Should we put my photo on the homepage? If investors ask about our private relationship, will that seem unprofessional? I answered every question seriously. Keep the wording simpler. You can use the photo, but don't make it look like a wedding portrait. A private relationship is not a problem, as long as there are no legal risks. She laughed and said, How could we have legal risks? I smiled too. Of course. I'm just thinking from the investor's perspective. I even helped her make several pages of the presentation cleaner. Not because I wanted to help her succeed, but because I wanted everyone to see clearly at the dinner. This company was not some casual idea. It had a complete plan, equity structure, funding arrangement, and an affair built into it. The more complete it looked, the harder it would be for Ryan to explain. On Thursday afternoon, Leah rolled her chair over beside mine. Emma, save me. What's wrong? She held up her phone. There were 3 dresses. A red dress, a black gown, a white fitted dress. What should I wear to the dinner tomorrow? I want something classy but not like a bride. I looked at the white dress. White. Clean. Like the life she thought she had. Wear the white one, I said. Really? Yes. It has a strong partner vibe. It also suits you standing next to Ryan. She smiled happily. I knew I should ask you. Ryan always says I overthink. I looked at her young face. For one moment I wanted to tell her, don't wear white. Tomorrow you'll cry in front of everyone. The man you call your fiancé is my husband. That diamond ring was probably bought with our marital money. You think you're walking toward a wedding, but you're actually walking toward a public humiliation. But I did not say it. Not because I was cruel, but because the truth had to land on Ryan. She could feel pain. I had felt it too. But Ryan could not keep hiding behind two women and pretending to be the victim. That night, Ryan came home in a good mood. He poured wine in the kitchen and even asked if I wanted a glass. "That investor dinner tomorrow is important?" I asked. He glanced at me. "Not really. Just a few potential partners. Do you need me to go?" He almost spilled the wine. "You." I smiled. "I'm joking. Didn't you say it was a boring finance event?" He relaxed. "Exactly. Very boring. And you've just started your new job. Don't wear yourself out." "Okay." He came over and kissed my forehead. "Once this busy period is over, we'll focus on us." That sentence made me feel cold. Focus on us. He had already used marital money to buy Leah an apartment, pay wedding deposits, start a company, and give her equity. And he could still come home and tell me we would focus on us. I looked at him. "Ryan, is there anything you want to tell me?" His movement paused. Just for a second. Then he smiled. "Why are you suddenly asking that?" "I just feel like you've been under a lot of pressure." He put down the wine glass, walked to me, and placed both hands on my shoulders. "Emma, I know I haven't been around enough lately. You just changed jobs and I'm always out. But everything I'm doing is for our future." I listened to that familiar sentence and almost wanted to applaud. For our future. What a useful sentence. He used it to lie to me. He used it to lie to Leah. I gently patted his hand. "Then I hope tomorrow goes smoothly." He relaxed. "It will." That night, I slept on one side of the bed. Ryan slept on the other. There was only a small distance between us. But I knew that distance could no longer be measured by a bed. The next afternoon at 3, Leah left work early. She carried a garment bag, unable to hide her smile. "Emma, I'm leaving early to get ready. Good luck tonight." She winked. "If this round of funding succeeds, you deserve some credit too." I looked at her. "Then I hope everyone remembers tonight." She smiled and left. Before I also left the office. I did not go home. I went to a luxury dress store on 5th Avenue. I did not want to look like I was going to catch a cheating husband. I did not want to look like a victim. I wanted to look like a woman attending a business event with documents in her hand. In the end, I chose a black dress. Clean cut, not too revealing but powerful. Then I had my hair and makeup done. In the mirror, I looked calm. My eyeliner was sharp. My lipstick was deep. There was no trace of tears on my face. At 7:30 p.m., the car stopped in front of the Plaza Hotel. When I got out, cold wind brushed against me. I stood in front of the hotel and looked at the warm light coming through the revolving doors. 7 years ago, Ryan and I had come here too. He brought me here for an anniversary dinner. We sat by the window and he said seriously, "Emma, one day I'll give you an even better life." That night I believed him. Now I was holding a thick folder of evidence, coming to end his so-called better life. The hotel staff led me to the event floor. At the entrance of the Astor Room, there was a check-in table. The backdrop read, B&L Growth Partners, Private Capital Launch Reception. I looked at B&L, Blake and Leah. Very direct. The staff member asked, "Ma'am, your name?" I took a blank name tag and wrote, Emma Hayes Blake, legal wife. The staff member froze for a moment. I placed the name tag on my chest. "Thank you." Then I walked in. The hall was warm with golden light. A band played soft music in the corner. Servers carried champagne through the room. Investors stood in small groups chatting. The screen showed the B&L brand presentation. Ryan stood near the front, wearing a dark formal suit and holding a glass of wine, laughing with several investors. Leah stood beside him in the white dress I had recommended. She was beautiful. She was happy. At least in that minute she was happy. Ryan saw me first. His smile froze. His face slowly turned pale. Leah followed his gaze and turned around. When she saw me, she looked surprised first, then frowned. "Emma." I held a glass of champagne and walked slowly toward them. Several people nearby looked over too. Leah asked, "What are you doing here?" "This is a private investment event." I looked at Ryan. "Yes, Ryan. Aren't you going to introduce me?" Ryan swallowed. "Emma, let's talk outside." "Why outside?" My voice was not loud, but it was loud enough for the people nearby to hear. You brought your fiancé, your investors, and your new company here. You just forgot to invite your wife. The air seemed to stop. The color drained from Leah's face. Wife. She looked at Ryan. What did she say? Ryan reached out, trying to pull me. I stepped back. Don't touch me. The conversations around us stopped. More and more eyes turned toward us. I turned to the investors. Good evening, everyone. Sorry to interrupt. My name is Emma Hayes Blake. I am Ryan Blake's legal wife of 7 years. Leah's wine glass slipped from her hand and hit the carpet. It did not break, but red wine spread across the floor. She stared at Ryan. You said you were divorced. Ryan's face was white. Leah, listen to me. I looked at him. Explain what? That you still live with me? That you kissed me goodbye this morning? That you used our joint accounts to transfer money to Leah? Or that you used marital savings to buy her an apartment and fund your new company? A low murmur moved through the crowd. An older investor stepped forward. Ryan, what is going on? Ryan forced himself to speak. This is a personal matter. It has nothing to do with the company. No, I opened the folder in my hand and placed a stack of bank records on the nearby cocktail table. It has everything to do with the company, because the startup capital for this company is not clean. I laid the pages down one by one. Over the past 2 years, Ryan paid more than $140,000 from our marital accounts to Leah Grant and related vendors. $80,000 went to Northline Residential for a Hudson Yards apartment deposit. More than $30,000 went to jewelry, travel, hotels, and wedding planning. And a portion of the startup capital for B&L Growth Partners came from our joint marital accounts. I took out the presentation deck. In this equity structure, Leah owns 25%. The investors' expressions changed. They were not afraid of cheating, but they were afraid of legal risk, afraid of dirty money, afraid of investing before getting dragged into a divorce property dispute. The older investor picked up several pages and read them. His face turned colder. Ryan, you did not disclose these risks. Jim, this can be handled. Ryan panicked. She is emotionally unstable right now. I laughed once. Ryan, are you sure you want to call me emotionally unstable in front of this many people? I pulled out another page from the folder. This is a draft email you prepared for your own team. In it, you wrote that if I discovered the truth, you would describe me as a wife who was under too much pressure and unable to accept the end of the marriage. Ryan froze completely. Leah looked up at him. You said she already knew. I looked at Leah. I found out on my first day at work, when I saw his photo on your desk. Leah's tears fell instantly. It was as if she finally understood everything. The Maui photo, the Aspen proposal, the photos he would not let her post. All the reasons he said he wanted to stay low-key. She turned and looked at Ryan. You lied to me for 3 years? Ryan tried to take her hand. Leah, I love you. It's just complicated. She slapped him. The sound was loud. The hall went completely silent. Leah cried and said, You let me hire your wife into my team? Or did you not even know she was your wife? Either way, you are disgusting. Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. The older investor put the documents back on the table. We're leaving. Ryan turned sharply. Jim, wait. There's nothing to wait for. The man said coldly, Your company has not even started, and it already has funding source issues and founder integrity issues. No one is putting money into this. He turned and left with his team. Other investors began moving too, one after another. No one wanted to stay in that room. 10 minutes later, the launch reception that had been lively moments ago was reduced to unfinished champagne glasses and Ryan standing pale in front of the screen. Leah sat in a chair, her makeup ruined. She looked up at me. You knew earlier, but you still helped me with the deck. I walked to her. I know you'll hate me for that, but I also knew that only a public truth would make you believe it. She cried quietly. I really didn't know he was still living with you. I believe you didn't know everything, I said. But you also chose not to ask. She did not argue. She only lowered her head and cried. I turned and walked toward the exit. Ryan chased after me. Emma. I stopped. He stood behind me, his voice hoarse. You destroyed me. I turned back and looked at him. No. You treated marriage like an ATM. You treated two women like stepping stones. You treated lies like a business plan. Tonight, everyone just got to see it. His eyes were red. After 7 years you had to do this? You didn't think 7 years mattered for 3 years. Don't use it now. He looked like he had been hit. He stood there and did not move. I walked out of the hall. The corridor outside was quiet. My heels sounded clearly against the floor. When I reached the hotel entrance, cold air hit me. I took a deep breath. My phone rang. It was Sarah. How did it go? It's over. The investors? Gone. Leah. She knows. Ryan. I looked back at the hotel entrance. Still alive, but probably not feeling great. Sarah laughed. Tomorrow we officially start the property war. I looked at the traffic by the curb. Good. That night I did not go home and cry. I returned to the apartment, put the documents into the safe, removed my makeup, showered and changed into pajamas. At 1 a.m, Ryan came home. He stood at the bedroom door, looking as if he had aged 10 years. Emma, I was wrong. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at him. Wrong about what? His lips moved. No answer came. I nodded. You just lost. He closed his eyes. I said, the divorce papers will be sent to you on Monday. You will account for every dollar you moved from our marital assets. The apartment, accounts, investments and B&L company funds will all be investigated. Emma, from now on you sleep in the guest room. Move out before noon tomorrow. He looked at me as if he was seeing for the first time that I was no longer the woman who packed his bags and waited for him to come home. You've changed, I said calmly. I just woke up. On Monday morning, Sarah sent the divorce papers to Ryan. At the same time, she also filed an asset preservation request and sent a list of evidence. Ryan's lawyer called that same day. First he sounded tough. He said this was only a private marital conflict, that Emma was too emotional, and that both sides should resolve things quietly. Sarah said only one sentence. Read the bank records, the B&L equity documents, the Hudson Yards apartment deposit, and the investor reception video before you decide whether you still want to call her emotional. The other side went quiet. Ryan tried to contact me. Calls, texts, emails. He even waited for me at the apartment entrance. I did not meet him alone. Sarah made it very clear. Emotional meetings were useless. Everything had to go through lawyers. I read the messages he sent, but I did not respond. Day 1. Emma, let's talk. I can explain. Day 2. Leah and I are over. I won't see her again. Day 3. Are you really going to push me until I have no way out? Day 4. My mother knows. She's devastated. Day 5. I did love you. That wasn't fake. I looked at the last sentence for a long time. Maybe he really had loved me, but he loved himself more. That was also true. Leah resigned on the 3rd day after the incident. She did not attend any handover meeting. HR only sent a short email saying that Leah Grant had resigned for personal reasons and that I would temporarily take over the brand upgrade project. Rumors began spreading in the office. Some said Leah had been caught in a finance scandal. Some said she had been deceived by her fiancé. Some had vaguely heard that I was the fiancé's wife. I did not explain. I just kept working. That surprised the company leadership. The CEO called me in for a conversation. His tone was careful. Emma, we know this has not been easy. If you need time off. I don't, I said. The project is at a critical stage. I can take over. He looked at me. Are you sure? I'm sure. I was not forcing myself. I truly needed work. After betrayal, if a person stares only at the wound, it keeps bleeding. I needed somewhere to go every morning. Something to do. After taking over Leah's role, I realized that she had actually done a lot of her work well. She was smart. She had good taste. She could execute. She was not just a pretty face. That made me feel complicated. Because she was not a simple villain. She was capable. She had been pulled into Ryan's lies. And she had enjoyed the benefits of those lies. All 3 things could be true at the same time. 1 month later, Leah sent me an email. The subject was short. I'm sorry. The message was not long either. Emma, I didn't know you two were still living together. I didn't know he had never divorced you. But I have to admit that I was not completely blind to the problems. He never brought me to meet his family. He never let me post his full face. He always said the past was complicated. I chose to believe him because that version benefited me. I don't know whether this counts as an apology, but I am truly sorry. I hurt you and I made myself into a joke. I will cooperate with your lawyer and provide everything I know about the money, the company, and the apartment. Leah. I looked at the email for a long time. Finally, I replied. Just cooperate with the lawyers. Nothing else needs to be discussed. I did not forgive her. But I did not continue hating her either. My main enemy had never been her. It was Ryan. Soon Leah provided a large amount of information. The divorce proof Ryan showed her was fake. He had used an expired divorce agreement draft to deceive her, saying the process was almost complete. He told her that we had already separated, but because the assets were complicated, he could not make it public yet. He also said that I was emotionally unstable and could not be provoked. These words matched exactly the narrative he had prepared for investors. He had already planned that if I made a scene, he would describe me as a crazy ex-wife. Unfortunately for him, he forgot two things. First, I was not his ex-wife. Second, I was not crazy. I was someone who had worked in brand strategy and crisis management for more than 10 years. I knew how to let evidence speak. 3 months later, the divorce financial investigation reached a critical stage. The forensic accountant found that Ryan had used more than $230,000 of marital funds for expenses related to Leah, B&L startup costs, apartment deposits, and wedding payments. B&L was also forced to dissolve. After the investors withdrew, no one wanted to touch the project. Ryan's original finance firm also suspended him. The company did not openly say it was because of moral issues. They only said it involved undisclosed conflicts of interest and personal financial risk. That was enough. The finance world is small. Especially among people who care about looking respectable, losing that respect is what they fear most. Ryan's mother called me. I answered. She started crying immediately. Emma, Ryan made a mistake, but you can't destroy his entire life. He just lost his way. I sat in the living room, looking out at the river. He lost his way for 3 years. But you were husband and wife for 7 years. He used 7 years of marital money to marry another woman. The other end of the phone went silent. She said quietly, "Men can be confused sometimes." I laughed once. Then let the court help him become clear. Her tone changed. "You've become very cold." "Not cold," I said. I just finally stopped making excuses for him. I hung up. That night, I put the last photo of Ryan from the bedroom into a box. I did not tear it up. I did not smash it. I just put it away. I no longer wanted him to occupy the most visible place in my life. On the day of the pretrial divorce conference, Ryan saw me for the first time in an official setting. He wore a dark gray suit and looked much more tired than before. In the past, every time he entered a room, he seemed confident, as if the room should make space for him. Now he just sat beside his lawyer, head lowered, flipping through documents. After reading the evidence, the judge's tone was calm. "Mr. Blake, do you admit that these expenses came from marital joint accounts?" Ryan's lawyer tried to explain. The judge interrupted. "I am asking whether they came from marital joint accounts." Ryan was silent for a few seconds. "Yes." "Were they used for Ms. Grant, B&L Growth Partners, and the Hudson Yards apartment deposit?" He closed his eyes. "Yes." At that moment I did not feel happy. I only felt tired. A truth that took him so long to admit had already shown itself to me on my first day at work. After the hearing, Ryan stopped me in the hallway. Sarah stood beside me and did not leave. Ryan looked at me, his voice low. "Emma, I know it's too late to say anything now. Then say less." He gave a bitter smile. "You didn't used to talk to me like that. I used to think you deserved my gentleness." His face turned pale. "I really did love you." "Maybe. You don't believe me?" "Ryan, I don't need proof of whether you loved me or not anymore. I need you to pay back the money, sign the papers, and leave my life." His eyes reddened. "Do you really have no feelings left at all?" I looked at him. "It's not that I have no feelings. It's that those feelings can no longer help you." Sarah lightly touched my arm. Let's go. I turned and left. This time I did not look back. The divorce was finalized 9 months later. I got back what I was supposed to get. Ryan was ordered to repay the marital assets that were determined to have been improperly spent, including money transferred to Leah, part of the gift expenses, the apartment deposit, and the B&L startup funds. The Upper West Side apartment was sold. The proceeds were divided according to the judgment. I did not fight for everything. I fought only for what was mine. That mattered. I did not want to live on hatred. I did not want to hold the rest of his life in my hands. That would be too exhausting. Ryan moved into a small apartment. His finance career was badly damaged, and it would be difficult for him to return to his old circle anytime soon. Later he sent me an email. Emma, after I moved out, I realized how much of that home had been held together by you. The bills, daily life, friends, holidays, even my dignity. I used to think that because I made money outside the home, I had given you everything. Now I understand that I was just used to someone else making life work for me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to say I'm sorry. Ryan. I read it and did not reply. Not because I was not sad. Because there was no need. Some apologies are only meant to help the other person finish their own emotional work. I did not need to participate. At Novasphere, the brand upgrade project launched successfully. I led the team for 3 months and the results were much better than expected. The board eventually decided to appoint me as Vice President of Brand Strategy, Leah's old position. That day, HR handed me the office key. I walked into that glass office. The desk had been replaced. The walls had been repainted. But I still looked at the upper left corner first. It was empty. No photo frame. No picture of Ryan. Nothing that could hurt me. I sat down, opened my laptop, and placed my notebook on the desk. On the first page I had written, "Do not doubt your intelligence just because someone deceived you. People who know how to lie are best at using the part of you that wants to believe them." I looked at those words for a long time. Then I closed the notebook. My new assistant knocked on the door. "Emma, the 10 o'clock team meeting is ready." I looked up. "Okay. I'll be right there." She was a young woman who had graduated 2 years earlier. Her name was Natalie. She spoke a little nervously but worked very carefully. Looking at her, I suddenly thought of my old self. And I thought of Leah. And I thought of all the women who work hard to move forward in their careers, but can still become lost in love after being lied to. I stood, picked up my files, and walked out of the office. In the meeting room, team members took their seats one by one. Someone asked about the new product launch schedule. Someone asked about budget adjustments. Someone asked about the next PR strategy. I answered each question. Clearly. Directly. Without hesitation. After work, Sarah took me to dinner. She raised her glass. "Congratulations on the promotion." I clinked my glass against hers. "Thank you. And congratulations on being single again." I laughed. "That's worth celebrating too?" "Of course," she said. "You didn't lose a husband. You got rid of a long-term liability." She made me laugh. And as I laughed, my eyes became a little warm. Sarah saw it but did not point it out. She just pushed the menu toward me. "Order something expensive. You're paying tonight." "Why do I have to pay when I'm the one who got promoted?" "Because you have money." I laughed even harder. At that moment I suddenly realized that I had not laughed like that in a very long time. Not controlling my expression in front of Ryan. Not staying professional at work. Not forcing myself to be calm in front of lawyers. Just laughing. Ordinary laughing. So life really does come back. It just does not always come back in the shape you originally wanted. Half a year later, I ran into Leah downstairs from the company. She had cut her hair short and was wearing a simple black coat, holding a cup of coffee. When she saw me, she clearly froze. "Emma." "Leah." We stood by the sidewalk, people moving around us. She looked very different. Not as bright as before. Not as superior either. But her eyes were more real. She said, "I heard you got promoted." "Yes. You deserved that position." I looked at her. "Thank you." She lowered her head and smiled faintly. "I left New York for a while. I went to Boston and found another job. A normal brand role. No title, no office. It's been hard." I did not respond. She continued, I used to believe the stories people gave me too easily. Ryan said you two were over and I believed him. Actually, it wasn't because he acted so well. It was because I wanted to believe him. She looked up at me. I owed you that sentence for a long time. I said. You already provided evidence to the lawyers. That was the legal part. She paused. This is the human part. I was silent for a few seconds. Leah, I'm not going to be friends with you. She nodded. I know. But I also don't want you to keep living inside the mess Ryan left behind. Her eyes reddened a little. Thank you. We did not hug. We did not say much more. She walked in another direction. I stood there for a while, then went into the company building. Some people are not meant for reconciliation. They are only there to confirm that the past is truly past. 1 year later, Novasphere held its annual brand conference. As vice president of brand strategy, I gave a speech on stage. Employees, partners, media, and investors sat below. When the lights hit me, I did not think of Ryan. I did not think of the photo on Leah's desk. I thought of myself on that first day, sitting in that glass office. My hands were cold. My throat was tight. The evidence that could destroy my life was sitting right in front of me. I did not collapse. I survived first. Then, little by little, I took the truth back. I stood on the stage and said to everyone, a brand is not about making something look better. A real brand means that what you say and what you do are the same thing. Trust is not a slogan. It is long-term behavior. Whether it is a person or a company, if it is built on lies, it is only a matter of time before it falls. People applauded. They thought I was only talking about business. Only I knew I was also talking about myself. After the event, I returned to my office. Outside the window was the Manhattan night view. Car lights flowing like a river. The upper left corner of my desk was still empty. I never placed any man's photo there afterward. Not because I stopped believing in love, but because I finally understood that the most important place in my life should not be handed over so easily to someone else. My phone lit up. An unknown number. I opened the message. It was Ryan. I heard your speech went well today. I watched the live stream. You were always incredible. I was just too full of myself before to truly see you. I hope life keeps getting better for you. Ryan. I stared at the message. I was not sad. I was not happy. I did not want to reply. I simply deleted it. Then I put the phone back on the desk. Some late recognition is not a gift. It is only an echo. And I no longer live in that empty room. I turned off the office lights and walked out through the glass door. Natalie was still outside organizing files. Emma, are you heading home? Yes. You should leave early too. Don't stay too late. She smiled and nodded. I entered the elevator. Before the doors closed, I looked back at that office. A year ago, I saw my husband's photo there and felt like my entire life had shattered. 1 year later, I sat inside that office. Not to prove anything to Ryan. Not to defeat Leah. But because I had always been capable of it. The elevator slowly went down. The mirrored doors reflected my face. Emma Hayes, 33. Divorced. Betrayed. I cried. I fought. I won. But most importantly, I no longer waited for a man to come home to prove that my life was complete. I was already on my own path. And this time, I would not let anyone else's photograph decide who I was.